Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
They're going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still start trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry.
From the California countryside, we head street side here at Detroit for the 5th round of the NARS Virtual Modern Sports Car Championship as we hit the streets of Belle Isle in Detroit. My name's Alex Goldschmidt. I'm going to be joined in the booth by Mr. James Parfitt. Of course, it's been a big adventure since we started back in January 30th at Daytona, headed to Long Beach, Sebring, and then Monterey to Laguna Seca. But Motor City, Detroit is the battleground here tonight as we will have both Hypercar and GT3 in action. Now, of course, this is part of the modernised Detroit GP, whereby the circuit itself will be a true test for the drivers. But this is the calendar as it is at the moment. We've got the 1.5 hours of Detroit here. Then on June 12th, we go to Watkins Glen. For 1.5 hours, we head over the border to Canada, to Mosport on the 24th of July, before Road America is hit on the 21st of August. We go back to Indianapolis on September 25th, Road Atlanta, the penultimate round of the season, on October 23rd, and then Virginia International Raceway will host the final round of this season. And more to the point, well, we've got some things to talk to you about. The track itself, 1.7 miles, built back in 1982, running the 2023 layout, just 9 turns, a lot of sharp corners, 90-degree lefts, 90-degree rights, and also some straight line speed will be required as part of this circuit here. More to the point, the keys to the race are very, very crucial. You've got to watch out for those walls. Fortune favours the bold, which means you might have to do that risk versus reward situation. And of course, be ready for rain to fall. Then you've got the challenges for both the Hypercars and the GTs. First of all, the Hypercars. Minimise your damage and attack at all opportunities. You're going to look at possibly a 3-stop strategy with a combination of medium and hard tyres being used. The cars to beat: the Caddy V-Series, the Peugeot 9X8, the Porsche 963, and the Ferrari 499. Then going on to GTs, again, the same strategy, but they'll be using just the medium tyres. 2-stop strategy, very much the case here for the GT3s, with the Mercedes, the Aston Martin, and the Porsche 911 992 being the cars that we're going to have to keep our eyes on here tonight. Then you've got the scores coming into this 5th round of this season. Daniel Kirby, who's going to run in GT3 Pro tonight, has had 4 wins across the board. Troy Uyen and John Mayer round out the top 3, ahead of Ben Kesby, Gilles Lalonde, Johnny Gutierrez, Jerry Chen, Mike Bell, Sahil Mustak, Ejika Karabasak, Brian Hall, and John Uyen. John Uyen not having the best run at all, not having scored a point on the board. Hypercar Am, Carl Strahal leads the way on 90 points, 21 ahead of Lanny Hall. Norm Graff Oliver Day, Scar Pope, Adrian Rice, Diego Rodriguez, and Philippe Ducati are the drivers that have taken part so far. Then going into LMP2, well, Alec King's run of form was broken, and with it, he lost the championship lead to Luciano Uchiazo. JT Tammy, who's decided to run in Hypercar tonight, rounds out P3 with Tucker Martin, Preston McNair, Mika Dern, Cole McMillan, Michael Locke, Becky Ely-Clark, Tom Lane, and Josh McGlinskey rounding out the top 11. Stuart Barge, Naaman Nadrasic being the only drivers out of 18 that have scored so far. The bottom 5 have yet to do so. Ryan Paulbert Reyes has 3 wins out of 4 so far and leads by just 12 points ahead of James Walker. Alan Holden in the Ferrari rounds out the top 3, a further 4 points adrift, with Eric Jacobs and Matthew Overton completing the top 5. William Schlichting and Dave Coors, Daniel Kent and Don Fryman have all scored points so far this season, but not everyone has competed in the championship so far. We've then got LMGT3 AM, and with that, Stephen Miller leads by just 2 points ahead of Alexander McQuarrie, as the returning Paul Ibbotson is back on the grid tonight. He's taken 2 out of the 4 wins so far this season. McQuarrie won last time out at Laguna Seca, and David Anderson, who rounds out P4, took the win at Long Beach. Max Sonderlap does have some work to do. And there you see the team standings. 166 points for Shade Tree Motorsports, Dark Thunder Racing, 13 points adrift, and then a further 19 back. We go to LSD Motorsport GT3. Vice Racing GT3 round out the top 4 teams, all that have broken into 3-digit scores so far this season. TP Performance by STM and the rest of the contenders there as well. But with that in mind, James Parfitt, it's good to be back here, but the streets of Detroit are going to be a true test. We've got walls in proximity, we've got a 1.7-mile circuit, and you cannot leave anything to chance here tonight.
No, definitely not. You are going to be in trouble if you do not approach this course with gusto and mean to basically make sure you can dominate it. You are going to be in for issues, to be blatantly honest. It's going to be very, very tight indeed. I'm a little bit worried about how tight this actually is, and why the blinking Nora would anybody want to put cars around here is beyond me, to be honest, because I've got a funny feeling we may see a few people grab the wall and, well, let's just hope they can get out of it.
Yeah, otherwise you will end up with 3 wheels on that wagon. We've already had qualifying completed. JT Tammy, one of the brave souls, deciding to brave it out, and he's gone with the BMW M V8 hybrid. So that's going to be quite interesting. We've got, in terms of the hypercars, we've got the 9X8, we've got Johnny Gutierrez, Troy Uyen in the Caddy V series, we've got Lanny Hall in the Lamborghini SC63, Norm Graff, who's got a well, he's one of several drivers that have picked up penalties from Laguna Seca. Stephen Miller has got a drive-through penalty to serve. Lanny Hall has got a warning for spatial awareness for contact. Norm Graff has got a drive-through. Gilles Lalonde, who is not here tonight, is going to have to serve that penalty at Watkins Glen. It's going to be a stop and hold plus 15 seconds, so that's penalties for 2 previous non-qualifying and stop goes that have not been served. Diego Rodriguez, well, when he returns, he's got a drive-through penalty to serve in his own right, and it's just going to be a case of, well, Great Scots Racing. Let's just say, crash 'em up derby could be the words of tonight, but we are still in the warm-up phase. But an hour and a half. The biggest thing is that it does say attack at all opportunities, but the attacks at all opportunities are going to be thick and thin all at the same time.
And they've got to be aware as well. I did love that penalty of spatial awareness. I did love that. That was more of a, please pay attention to where you are on the racetrack. You know what I mean? Come on, be aware of what's in and around you. This doesn't, I've got to be honest, from my perspective, I don't know if I would enjoy this. I don't know if this is Monaco-esque, where it could be quite sort of meh. And with the walls as close as they are, as you can see, we just jumped on board with JT here. You know, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if my love for this would be worth doing. Do you know what I mean? Maybe Ross has got a little bit more enthusiasm for it, but yeah, I don't know. Ross, what do you think?
Good to be here, everyone. But yeah, you say Monaco. I really see this kind of like a Long Beach sort of analogy, and they're both American tracks, but it's very gridded up. I mean, Monaco, you get a little. I mean, Monaco is way tighter, I want to say. There's at least some passing opportunity. You have this very long straight that runs down East Jefferson, which is actually going to be where we're going to have the start of the race instead of at the usual start-finish line, which is next to pit road. And you just get all of these 90-degree corners. I like that it's a unique kind of challenge. I really wish we could have the original layout that Detroit, the Motor City, brought back in the 1980s when it first premiered. And in 1982 is when Formula One raced here. Not at this layout, but it was, I think it was within walking distance of this area. And that was such a cool layout because it went all over the place. It was, you're up and down, like it almost felt like you're running through some of the garages that they have here and everything. And so it had a lot going on. This is a bit more, kind of center grid, but you get some bits that feel a bit like Macau. You get some parts that feel like Long Beach, and some that are just a little bit their own unique entities. Like you look at pit road, and it is split left and right. So drivers are going to have to contend with that while they maneuver around here.
Like we just saw with Alan Holden finding the barriers just a second ago. But the warm-up is completed. 90 minutes, 1.5 hours around this 1.7 mile circuit. Of course, LMP2s are not here. We've got 17 drivers set to take to this track, and it is going to be quite interesting. It is going to be, I think, a little bit of a free-for-all, to be truthfully honest, with the way that these walls are so close to the cars. I mean, 2 wide, fine. 3 wide, what the heck are you playing at, is probably the first thought that jumps into my brain on that one. But it could be, it's all about, as we've seen all the way through this season so far, gents, it is about getting through that opening lap. I think here at Detroit, you've got to get through more than 1 lap. You've got to get through maybe the first 5 to 10 laps to be able to set that rhythm. In a normal traditional circuit, like say Laguna Seca, the first couple of laps, as long as you get through them, you're fine. Here, you're not really given much chance to breathe. You've got to have your eyeballs on stalks. You've got to really be on point all the way through this race. And if you make a mistake, well, it could be a problem for you and everybody else. Here's the grid. It's Ben Kesby and Johnny Gutierrez on the front row. Hitcher Kanabasak and Troy Uyen on row number 2. Row 3, JT Tammy ahead of Norm Graff with Brian Hall and Lanny Hall rounding out the top 8 cars. Then Daniel Kirby puts it on pole for LMGT3 Pro. He's got Ryan Paulbert Reyes alongside him. They complete the top 10. But the returning Paul Ibbotson and Alan Holden are alongside each other on row 6. Max Sunthornlap and Alexander McQuarrie row 7. Eric Jacobs and Matthew Overton round out row 8. And bringing up the rear of the field, Stephen Miller in the McLaren 720S GT3 AM class car. But yeah, I think the thing is that, with Kirby deciding to go with GT3 this time around, it's going to give an opportunity for the other driver.
Yeah, he's gone already on the start. You can see the hypercars are breaking away at the moment. Ben Kesby has escaped. Johnny Gutierrez is there. Troy Uyan as they go over that very tight, twisty bridge. We're going to catch up with the GT3s. They've also gone at the same time. Dan Kirby, Ryan Paulbert Reyes, Alan Holden. That is not good. That is a hypercar smacked in the wall. I think that might be one of the halls. I think that was Lanny Hall. But very short parade lap here, Alex, and they've kind of gone already.
Yeah, about a minute ahead of schedule. But Daniel Kirby has got Ryan Pulbert-Ray is trying to chase him down in the battle for the overall LMGT3 lead. And that is the number 50 that had the drama.
Yeah,
it was
Lanny.
Lanny Hall. So he's dropped to the tail end of the field. But yeah, very tight circuit. A lot of technicality here, Ross. And you've got to have this, the car set up for more of a shorter burst of acceleration, but also good steering toe in and toe out.
Yeah, 100% right there. Like I said, it's very unique. You get you get this nice long straightaway that they're kind of going through right now, and then, like you said, you have to be able to get really point and squirt kind of corners under your belt. And I think that's one area where the 992s are going to really do well here. You can see that they were able to start off a little bit ahead of the Aston Martins, which have kind of been dominant on a lot of the other tracks throughout the season, even though we've seen the Porsches really perform well. Right now we've got Alan Holden, who's chasing down Paul Ibbotson, and they had a little bit of coming together early on in the race, so it'll be interesting to see how they kind of carry on for the rest of this run.
Yeah, James, it's actually good to see Paul Ibbotson, who wasn't with us at Laguna Seca, but he's been one of the drivers that we've really had to keep an eye on in LMGT3 AM this season.
Yeah, I think he's going to be moving up next season if he carries on with the form he's got. Let's be real about it. They're not going to have, somebody who can mix it up in the pros like he can. He's ahead of Alan Holden, Matt Overton, and Eric Jacobs at the moment, and he's still doing a great job driving around in the Porsche of all things, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, coming on to handling characteristics, in terms of the GT3s, you would say that the Porsche would have the distinct advantage, but yes, that is the case. I mean, Daniel Kirby is bolted like a scalded cat off a hot tin roof ahead of Ryan Pulbert-Ray. He's about 2.4 seconds up the road, and then it's a further 2.5 seconds back to Paul Ibbotson. So it's a Porsche meritocracy overall in the LMGT3s, with 2 GT3 pros leading an AM. And well, one of the interesting things was that we saw that Daniel Kirby was able to qualify mid-pack of the Hypercars in a GT3, which just goes to show that that car is a little bit more of a better choice around this circuit. So Kirby thinking, well, I want to switch it up, and he does that quite a bit, Ross, as well.
Oh yeah, NARS on Thursday is a bit of his playground. He really likes to enjoy going around, seeing what he's missing from sort of the Big Brother series that runs on Saturday, mostly so because it's able to enjoy some of the more international audience, draw from a larger pool of drivers who have availability instead of kind of being nuts like you guys coming in here and 2 in the morning your time. But yeah, he's feeling it out. He's certainly no stranger to any of the GT racing, and he'll kind of flex muscle in whatever he can. And he's certainly connected with the 992. It's one of his favorite cars in testing, not just in the off season, but testing for Storm Gang simulation and developing the car. So he's hooked up. He loves it. And that's one of the reasons why you're going to see him at the front of the field. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts catching up to some of the hypercars once they start running into issues as the race goes on.
He is already. That's Norm Graff, and he has closed literally on the back end of Norm Graff here. You might see Graff get away on the straight, but that would be about as far as he gets. And if he makes one more little wall tap, Norm Graff and Lanny Hall could be into the grips of a GT3 here, because Kirby is not hanging around at this moment in time. And he's literally not letting him go, Alex, is he?
No, neither is Johnny Gutierrez in terms of catching up to Ben Casby. So Johnny Gutierrez has had a bad run of luck so far this season, and he's within 8.5 tenths of the race leader as we ride on board with the Bad Day Racing Peugeot 9X8 Evo in the 102. You can just see that there are points where Casby has got the fastest overall lap in the race. Eja Karabasaka's got the fastest overall sector number 1, just gone sub 11 seconds in there, but Gutierrez is able to use the balance of the Peugeot 9X8 to try and close in on that caddy. 2 very different powertrain solutions, 5.5 litre naturally aspirated V8 versus turbocharged, I think V8 or V6 in the Peugeot, Ross, but Gutierrez just using that nimbleness of this this French hypercar just to try and close in on its American rival up front.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. I want to say that the all-wheel drive is going to be very useful around this track, especially just getting that power down out of the corners. It's a format that's been adjusted a little bit to be more in line with what you see within the WEC, where they're not really able to use that all-wheel drive all at once. R Factor 2 is a bit limited in the way that it allows for deployment of the hybrid, and at least as far as the all-wheel drive, it doesn't actually have hybrid, but we sort of faked it in this case, so it's limited with how much it has, but it's still there. So as the race goes on and those rear tires start to heat up, and drivers have to be a little bit more gingerly with the way that they accelerate out of corners, I think you're going to see Johnny really be able to close that gap up on Ben Kesby, who's normally, at least on the weekends, able to run also in an all-wheel drive in the form of the 499P. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, it's been pretty clean so far in the first 5 or so minutes, but we've had a yellow out in sector number 2. Matthew Overton has been in pit lane, so someone has. That's going to be a length. That's a bit of a lengthy yellow, as Stephen Miller is being closed in on by the race leaders. So Kesby has got through, and Miller goes straight on at the hairpin at turn 3, I believe. So
I don't think that's his only drama here, Alex. I think he's had multiple. This might be the first one. We got held up going there from pit lane. I think that was after his penalty. And then he just went and ran, as we saw live, straight on here. But Stephen Miller just getting it all a little bit wrong. I did want to just have a quick look at Lanny Hall. I believe his drama right at the beginning where he hit the wall. He just goes in, misses the corner, and thump.
Yeah.
Straight in there. He didn't really get much going on that one for him.
Things are closing in, actually, between the top 3 and the hypercars at the moment, as that was a bit of a scrape with the wall there. They aren't completely smooth, and myself and Ross, we did actually witness during, I think it was before qualifying, during free practice, Daniel Kirby had 3 wheels on his wagon, like he literally tangled with the barriers on the right hand side of the circuit here, coming down the back stretch, and just literally clobbered it, and all of a sudden we saw a Porsche wheel doing Porsche wheel things, running away from the car as it separated itself from the hub and the drivetrain. But it's getting a lot closer now, because it's Gutierrez in the middle of a Cadillac sandwich at the moment, because Kalabasak has done a really, really good job at the moment and has put in the fastest lap of the race. So the Caddy chasing down the Porsche as they go down this very, very long back stretch down East Jefferson down to Griswold here at turn 3. And then it's the 90 right into Bate Street down 4. So it's more when we get to turn 3 and then get through to turn 9 before they go past the start-finish line again, James, that the Peugeot seems to have that little bit of an advantage, but in a straight line, it can't trounce the Caddy at all. Yeah,
I think that's the thing. It's always going to be in certain places that one car is going to be stronger than the other, I think. You know, if the 9X8 can do some of these tight corners better than Ben Kesby can in front, well, that's probably not a bad thing. Kesby has had moments where he slid and he's bumped the back end of the wall and he's couldn't get the car stopped. So I think if the X8 can stay with him, I'm going to be interested to see how they start handling this traffic very, very shortly here, because you can see them all in front of them at the moment, and they're just going to go rapidly come up to them. So I'm going to be interested to see how this first run through goes. And I am a little bit concerned that we've also got Dan Kirby, who may have actually physically put a lap on a hypercar. There's a car stopped. They're stuck in the middle of the track.
Oh, traffic jam. That's Lanny Hall in the 50. Oh, it's
Ibbotson.
Oh, and it's Paul Ibbotson. Paul Ibbotson, and that is Max Sunthornlap. That is, oh, dearie me. That is for the
field.
Everybody's there, isn't it?
He's trying to do a J-turn. He's causing more damage to that 165 Porsche. Let's have a look at the replay. So he turns it in. I think it's going to swap. Yeah, swaps end. He clips the curb on the inside. It spins the car around, and Sunthornlap just goes harrowing in there. Alan Holden holds on the brakes, and then yeah, it just causes a traffic jam like on I-95.
Yeah, everybody's in there. Literally, the whole field is sat there waiting for him.
He can come back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're moving now.
Come back. But
Yeah,
he'll
Paul
be down a
Livingston
couple
has
laps.
ended up in the pit. Well, he's DNF'd. I mean, it was enough that he turned the car around, but he went and reversed it, tried to J-turn the thing, and the left rear took an absolute pounding as he reversed it back down the hill. And now we're back up to full racing speed, and
Oh,
That was close.
that was very, very close. I think that was Ben Kesby nearly
Yeah,
getting
it
a bit
was.
right.
It was your leader trying to, I think, almost looking at taking a dive there. And, well, yeah, he could have been diving the wrong way. I do wonder if Ibbotson is done now. It does look like he has DNF'd. He's finished from the series. That is a really rotten place to get stuck. And because that's what will happen. You will physically get stuck. The whole field was literally bunched there waiting for him. And he just couldn't do nothing. It's like, well, I'm in a wall. So he's tried to reverse. Now, whether or not the Sims turned around and gone, whoa, 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 what you doing? And kicked him out, which is what most Sims do if you start driving backwards along the circuit, mind you. So unless that's happened, then that's why he's out. But at the moment, yeah, that's just a really rotten place to spin and have a whole incident.
Yeah, Eric Jacobs trying to catch up to Alan Holden in the battle for P3 for LMGT3. Meantime, Daniel Kirby leads LMGT3 by 9.1 seconds. Oh, and we've had more drama.
I think it was
That
Brian.
was one of Brian Hall. So both Alani and Brian not having the best of luck. Yep, it's the wrong way, my friend. You've got to get that car spun around somehow. And
see, they're taking chances doing this.
oh,
Because if RF2 turns around and says, you're going the wrong way, and then terminates them, we're going to have another situation. You know, because at the end of the day, all of these times, I'm going to presume that's what it does, Ross.
It does, although he was in reverse, but moving in the right direction, so I think he was okay in that case. A little unorthodox, just like we saw at Long Beach. It's, you know, he managed to get it working, but both Hall brothers obviously in that same spot coming up to that Bates Street chute, where you have to get that hole just right, or you got problems.
yeah. So here's the
he hit somebody.
He hit Stephen Miller.
Yeah, I
hit
think he
on the
ran.
rear.
Yeah, he ran
just
straight into it.
Yeah, it's just like he puts on the accelerator, bang, there's the contact. Miller gets damage to the rear of the McLaren. That's not going to help him one iota. And then
It's like
Brian Hall. I mean, it's Kesby that's cut. Well, you've got that was Reyes, I think, coming along, and then as Brian Hall reverses, the car that's coming close to him is the overall race leader, and that is Ben Kesby, who's now put a lap down on him. So you're going to see here, he parks it, engages first. Here comes Ben Kesby at full racing speed. He rejoins, and that was a bit too close for comfort.
Do you know what I felt like I needed then was a Benny Hill theme tune? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. You know what? You read my mind on that one, James.
Yeah, it was like. It's just him going round and backwards. Oh, dear.
But in the meantime, we have had a change for second position in the hypercar class because Kalabasaka's got through on Gutierrez, who's now down to P3. JT Tammy, I have to say, doing a pretty good job in the BMW Hybrid V8, the number 24, currently running fourth in the class ahead of Troy Uyen. So they're doing some pretty good work at the moment, but I think Gutierrez is, as I said earlier on, guys, the Cadillac is just able, out of turn 2, coming out of Rivard Street, and then goes down East Jefferson, heads to Griswold Street at the hairpin at turn 3. Like literally the speeds I'm seeing, the caddies are doing 185 to 190 miles an hour, and Gutierrez is losing out by anywhere between 5 to 8 miles an hour on top end speed. But Gutierrez has scraped the wall there, So he's got to be very, very careful as well in his own right.
Yeah, I think with the fact that the walls are so close, I would be careful as well. Do you know what I mean? I think in general they should be looking at the fact of, you know, braking a little bit earlier, letting the car roll, not do anything crazy, and then, you know, let it rotate itself round the corner as well. Junio Tilambacano, good evening. Good evening to you, sir. How are you, sir? There we go. But Gutierrez is back up behind Karabagak again, and he's going to try and get closed in. But yeah, I would literally try and sort of brake a little bit earlier and use the natural grip of the car to go around the corner. I don't think trying to hammer the brake and hoping that the car sticks is necessarily going to work here. Maybe I'm wrong, but Ross will tell me more.
Well, I'm a little distracted by this GT3 battle that's going on. I noticed that Alan Holden has kind of fallen back to the clutches of Eric Jacobs, who's sort of been a cork in the bottle for the two GT3 AMs behind him, Max Something-Lap and Alexander McQuarrie. They've sort of just been this weaving train. And Alan was up further before, but I'm wondering if maybe he got caught up in some of what was going on with the hypercars. We keep seeing Lanny Hall getting just sort of this uninvited guest into their battle, and it just keeps swirling things around. So I'm kind of amused watching this happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's like when they go across the strike, they've just gone through down Franklin Street into Revelle Street, now onto East Jefferson, and you can see that Honey's just getting a little bit too eager on the loud pedal, and you can see the back end of that Lamborghini SC63 just squirming for traction as he passes Eric Jacobs of over the best part of 170 miles an hour, hard on the brakes, down into first gear, you know, like 30 miles an hour. And again, he's just applying the power a little bit too early in that Lamborghini SC63, and that's where the trouble lies. And he always just hit the wall with the left rear whilst accelerating again. So, plus the thing is, this is a street circuit, folks, so varied parts of tarmac, different grip adhesion, and this is where it comes into play. Norm Graf still running second in the only, well, he's won a race now finally in his class, but also the fact he's the only second AM class hypercar in this field. So both him and Lanny are having to battle their way through LMGT3 traffic, and sometimes if you mistime it by 1 iota, you can just get it completely wrong. And now what has happened is that Lanny Hall has got, well, he's trying to put cars between himself. I think he's just passed Alan Holden down the stretch, and he's now coming up to get through. I think that is going to be on, it's one of the Aston Martins.
No, it's not Paulbert Reyes.
It was either Something-Lap or McQuarrie, and like it's just so difficult to time it. Again, like we've just seen Lanny Hall come into shot, and again on the loud pedal, you're going to see the back end of that Lamborghini is struggling for traction, whereas Norm Graf is being a little bit more precise. Again, Lanny just hits the throttle, and it just boots the back axle to the corresponding other side of which corner he's gone through. So if it's a left-hander, he boosts the throttle, it spins out to the right, he goes through a right-hander, it spits out to the left, and Norm Graf is catching him hand over fist, and
it was in the wall.
And Graf goes straight on at turn 1.
Where's he gone? Come back.
Oi, 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 oi.
I wonder if he just misjudged that braking zone. We kind of saw a similar situation before where I think some of these guys who might be a little bit more conservative into the braking zones are just catching out some of those behind them that want to go, you know, just another couple meters deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the things was that Lanny, I think, just turned in a bit too early for that turn 1, and he clobbered it with the left front as well. But was there actually contact between Norm and Lanny on that exchange? That's the big question.
It didn't look like. I've got some information on Paul Ibbotson, by the way. It was his mistake. He hit escape, and he should have hit Alt F4, so he could have come back. So he can't come back. So he hit the wrong button.
That's a real shame. Well, we'll have
That's
to
what happens
see.
when you go on vacation. You forget to hit the buttons right.
Oh, mistakes do happen. We're all human at the end of the day. But this is a really good battle here. Max Sunderlap and Alexander McQuarrie both battling over the LM GT3 AM class lead, literally nose to tail as they go through the very tight section here at Detroit. And again, the same thing we're seeing, that I think it's not just Lanny and Brian Hall that are doing it. You're also seeing some of the other drivers like McQuarrie, like Sunderlap, who are getting onto that power that split second too early, and it's just spooling up the rear tyres, so you get the wrong kind of reaction when you're wanting it to bite down for traction. You're getting a bit of sideways motion from the rear axle, and that does not help you going around corners in the best sense, especially through here.
It definitely doesn't. As I said, it's using that brake and roll function more than trying to sort of slam the throttle on and hit the brake and slam it down again. You know what I mean? Clearly the cars are not liking being treated that way. You know, it's not a rough night out on a Friday. It's more of a enjoy your marriage anniversary with a quiet meal and a little bit of dinner and maybe a Netflix and chill when you get home. You know, they can't be out clubbing Friday night and then come and just go, it's just not going to work. So these guys are just going to have to be a little bit more gentle.
Yeah, we're 21 minutes in of this 1.5 hours race here at Detroit, and Norman Graf just one of the things I do like, the fact that we've got this Aston Martin Valkyrie on the grid, and that Norman Graf decided to be the only person that went, I'll give it a go and see how it is. And he's done pretty well so far this season, but it's just like when we get onto a street circuit like this, like there's nowhere to hide at all. You can just see how close they're getting to the barriers going into the 90 right at turn 4, going down Bate Street, and then into a quick set. You know, you've got a 90 left, a 90 right, a 90 left, a 90 left, a 90 right. It's just sort of like you cannot do. You know, I think you put it across really, really well, James, about using the brake and let the car roll into the corner rather than brake, turn, point, squirt, out you go of the corner.
Yeah, they just got to be gentle, I think, Alex. I think, you know, you could be overzealous and hope for the best, and it just isn't always necessarily going to work, especially when you're working in and around traffic. You know, these guys have been in there for quite a while now, stuck in and around these guys, and they're not really making great impressions or carrying that much more speed than what the GT3s are. In fact, at some points, as we can see with Dan Kirby, Ryan Paulbert Reyes, you know, Dan Kirby's ahead of Brian Hall, Lanny Hall, and Norm Graf. So, you know, it kind of says it all, that they've got to be a little bit more on the how can I put it, a little bit more using savvy in their head than they are driving what they're driving at the moment, because currently they're still behind some of the GT3s.
Yeah, I think coming on to Daniel Kirby here, Ross, an inspired choice to go into GT3s, as you say, that, you know, he does like running in other championships where he feels this is playground, but here, you know, yes, it means that we're going to have someone else winning in Hypercar, but for his perspective, it's sort of like, I just want to have, yeah, okay, it's going to be a tight track. I don't know, you know, it's a new track for everybody. I want to sample it in something that I know that will handle well around here. And I think he's done the sensible choice that if we do go around this track in future seasons, that by getting that GT3 knowledge first, you can then build that into an understanding of how to set up the hypercar as a direct correlation.
Yeah, Alex, you're right. It's it definitely translates in terms of having that experience, and even if it's not something that goes right into maybe the way that you would work your car if you were to change categories, it certainly gives you an appreciation of what the other categories have to go through, what those drivers are doing, where their braking points are. So, and honestly, it's the type of thing that myself and several other drivers admins have promoted, where they say, hey, give the other class a try, go through, see what it's like, so that way you can say, oh well, that's what it's like having a hypercar fly up on me at, you know, 200 miles an hour more and whatnot, but also then knowing where the braking points are, because like you guys are pointing out, there's a lot of similar performance as we go through the tighter sections of the track. The GT3s are able to get like what James was saying about the flow. They're able to kind of flow a little bit better. The hypercars seem to be just a bit more awkward, at least in some of the cases here, where they can't quite get into that sort of zen flow state and just be able to hook up. Maybe it's just because they're not getting enough aero performance through some of these corners. It's hard to say, but the ones who have it, they're at the top.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that through the speed traps, I mean, I'm seeing a differential of anything as high as 24, 25 miles an hour difference when they go down through out of turn 2 and then down to turn 3. It's a long stretch, so you can really run the cars as full throttle as you can right up until that point, as we see Brian Hall make his way through 3 at Griswold Street and then down into the right-hander here at 4. You know, a 20 to 25 mile an hour speed difference is going to be great down the back stretch, but you're powerless to use it anywhere else, James, because it's just about just making sure you're nigh on millimeter perfect. But when you get to, like, say, the first set of pit stops, okay, the track will have evolved to some point, but the confidence might still not be there for some of our hypercar drivers, whereas the GT3 drivers will go, actually, I've done the better choice here. I've selected the class that I feel I can perform better at this circuit at this point.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, it's using what you've got to the best of the ability that you have. You know, they can't just go, I know I'm going to pick a hypercar and drive it absolutely awful. It's just not going to work. You know, the hypercars have literally got East Jefferson. That's really their main place for overtaking. Other than that, they're stuck in behind the GT3s going through some of the twisty bits, you know, through 4, 5, 6, 7. Maybe they might get a quick run up Atwater, but coming into 8, 9, they're stuck again. You know, it's got to be use where you can. Don't try and over drive what you can't deal with, you know, because otherwise you're just gonna, one, endanger yourself and end your own race, and B, possibly end somebody else's at the same time.
Yeah, just looking at the fastest laps of the respective classes, Ben Kesby 103, 182 in the number 9 Caddy V Series R Hypercar. Norm Graff is the fastest out of the 2 Hypercar Rams with a 105.771. Dan Kirby is the 105.232. Dan Kirby, fastest overall in LMGT3 with a 108.223. And Paul Ibbotson, until his unfortunate demise, was actually the fastest in LMGT3 AM and was only 6 and a bit tenths off of Kirby with a 108.885. So it does go to show, yes, there may be a 5-second differential between a hypercar and a leading LMGT3 Pro or AM class car, but it's in the twisty stuff where the GT3s are really at home, and it's down East Jefferson, as you said, James, that where the hypercars really can be pushed to their limit. But now we've got Norm Graff now ahead of Lanny Hall in terms of the battle for hypercar AM. And I think, who's that catching him up? I think, is that Troy Uyen, I think, behind?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was. But JT Tammy, let's talk about that man for a minute. I mean, third in LMP2s, and he's running P4. He's got a very, he's going about it the right way, as I think we've got our first set of pit stops for Hypercar that Kawasaki and Gutierrez have pitted, which has promoted JT Tammy behind Ben Kesby, who's leading by about 18.5 seconds. So JT Tammy's done a pretty sterling job at the moment, guys, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely would. Definitely would agree. He's doing well in that car, sitting in second overall in the hypercars now. As you say, Karabzak and obviously Gutierrez in pit lane. They've come out a little bit further down. You can see where they exit pit lane. That was imperative that they got out in front of the GTs that were behind them there. So it was imperative that they had done that and got out in front of them, because otherwise it was going to be a very dramatic moment, should we say, if they start joining them all up together.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on JT's performance so far, Ross?
Well, it's kind of curious. I'm looking at it two ways because we haven't seen much BMW representation. The M Hybrid's been described as a very neutral car. A lot of drivers enjoy it for how it's kind of just very even keeled across the board when you look at its stats. But for most of them, they don't pick it just because they don't feel like it's terribly inspiring. Uh-oh, I think we just had a crash from Gutierrez. I think he just took himself out on one of the walls.
No.
He has.
Oh.
I saw a tire bouncing.
Yeah, he pits out here,
no.
so it's going to be after this for Gutierrez.
Oh,
It's going to be the right rear that's going to come adrift from that car. He's at full speed. And what happens here? He's going to be going into the braking zone, turns it in.
It's going to be a bit of a wait, I'm afraid. This is about as close as I can get this replay.
So that's probably going to be at Atwater Street, I would imagine. Oh, he nearly loses it there, going down Bates Street. Now into turn 5, then into 6, and then through into 7. So it's going to be coming out of here. And over the little sort of yomp down here into turn 8.
Goes
and
into pits. Where is it he does it then? Because after this, he DNFs straight away. So we might have to just follow him here for a minute. I do apologise, but this is about as close as I can get on this 9X8 as to where he actually did it. Because after that, he DNFs. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what he did. We can only get to the back end of the incident. I don't fancy trying to rewind this because I don't think it will work. Whatever he does is going to be soon.
And he's just put in there. Now I understand about the wall grabbing you. So he comes out of the pits. Now through into turns 1 and 2. So then he's going to go into East Jefferson. And he's going to start accelerating. He's trying to close in on the caddy in front.
Could be at the end of this straight, I think.
Yeah, because they sort of camber, they go to the right-hand side. I think it's at the other side of the track where it happens, whether it's happened before he's gotten through. So a little bit of a wiggle on the back end there. Now through into 5. Misses the wall going through into 6 and 7. So I think it's going to be here.
Oh.
Yeah, there it is. He came out of 6 and 7 and straight away right rear exits behind the car. And that was why Johnny Gutierrez said in the Discord, now I understand about the wall grabbing you, with a Steve Carell gif from The Office to accompany it.
Yeah.
that's a shame.
And he was doing really well. He was running as high as P2 earlier on in the race. He started on the outside of the front row and was having
McQuarrie's DNF'd as well.
Oh dearie, dearie me. Oh no.
What did he do?
So,
He's gone in pit lane and then he just DNFs and doesn't come out again after that.
unless he's had a technical drama of some description. But
Looks so, because he's just rejoined.
oh, disconnect then. Oh well, that is going to be.
I think he's done that before on a couple races where he's just, for whatever reason, his connection ends up becoming compromised. It's unfortunate. He was actually having a really good race too, back there fighting for with Max something lap for top of the AMS. So it looks like at this point Mac only has a little bit of competition with Stephen Miller, because Alexander McQuarrie is going to be down at least a lap, if not 2, by the time he gets going again.
Yeah, agreed.
But if you have a look on the timing tower on the left-hand side, Dan Kirby is sitting 4th overall.
Oh well, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say something here. This could be the possibility where we actually see an LMGT3 Pro end up in the overall podium, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think that is very, very feasible with someone of the alien-esque skill of Mr. Daniel Kirby, and he's now going to try and put a lap down on Stephen Miller. I think he's got behind him, I think that'll be Matthew Overton in the 174, and then they've got one of the caddies, I think that's Troy Uyen, trying to close in. And this will be quite an unusual sight, I think, for Troy Uyen to say, to go, hello Dan, how are you? See you later, buddy, when they go down East Jefferson in a minute.
It's literally the only place he's going to be able to do this, unless he, as I say, unless he can get a short, sharp run. But other than that, it is here that he's going to be able to get through.
And, well, there we go. Troy Uyen now 4th. Brian Hall in the lowest place hypercar currently runs P8. So with 54.5 minutes leaders at the moment, Kesby leads in hypercar. Dan Kirby leads in LMGT3, running 5th overall. Norm Graff leads in hypercar AM, and Max Sunderlap leads in GT3 AM, but we've got a yellow out in sector 3 for a brief moment, which is...
Oh, that's your leader.
Oh, no. No, not Ben Kesby. Oh, what's happened here? He's gone straight on. Oh, he's done a Norm Graff. Straight on at the at turn 3.
Yeah, he's just missed the breaking point and he's just tootling around at the moment. There's a couple of others that might have had some issues. Karabasak as well. There's also got that he's gone very, very slow indeed. Oh, he's grabbed the wall.
Oh, he's hit the wall in front of JT Tammy. Ouch.
Man, that grab is horrendous. What's gone on with Lanny Hall here as well? Has he come and done the same thing? There's a string of...
Oh, and he's just...
he's trying to avoid him.
He's just... Yeah, because Norm Graff was running a little bit slow on the left-hand side of the circuit. And he's just gone to the right-hand side and just gone barreling in pinball wizardry on that one. And,
jeez!
Who was that? That was Karabasak, wasn't it? So Karabasak had that first incident in front of JT Tammy, and that second one has just DNF'd him from the race.
What did that... Watch that grab. Oh my God.
That was... And that ripped both right-hand side wheels off the car in the process as well.
Yeah, you could see because the damaged steering that he had, he was pulling to the left as much as he could, and I think that it was just drifting much further to the right than he was anticipating.
So Gutierrez is out, McQuarrie's out, Ibbetson's out, and Karabasak is out. So at this moment in time, Dan Kirby sitting 4th overall in a GT3. Alan Holden sitting 5th.
And Daniel Kirby, get this, only 8.5 seconds behind Troy Uyen in a hypercar. Now, where on earth would we see on the rest of this calendar that happening? Nowhere else. Nowhere else.
No. Because
and that's
bonkers.
I was like, I know, it's crazy. It is crazy. We are having these moments when, and you can see that Lanny Hall has got damaged steering as well in his own right, because that car has tagged the ball going into the pit lane.
I think it was broke before.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that stems from this. What's the car in front?
Yeah, that's Norm Graff, and
yeah, that was.
Yeah, there's a.
Wow.
We knew it'd be a problem where the walls are sort of tricky, you know, where they've got some of those separation points, and it's just enough where it can snag the cars, and unfortunately, it's taken out a lot of these hypercars in rapid succession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things where you can't believe what you've just witnessed. It's like, really? Did that just happen? And when you think about it, Lanny Hall coming into contact with the man who he was battling with for the Hypercar lead as well. Norm Graf was running slow.
Oh, Ray, Paul Reyes.
Blown engine.
Oh no.
Oh, he blew it up.
Smoke from the 4-litre flat six. Oh, has there been a double downshift possibility here? Because that
We're not really going to see, unfortunately, off that.
Shouldn't be able to, because they do have the downshift protection implemented. It's a little bit looser than some of the official R Factor 2 content, which many people complain about, but it should be plenty enough to keep from over revving like that. I'm wondering if maybe he had tape up too high and that had just been working some of the engine a little bit more, and maybe he was hitting some higher revs about that. That's very unusual to see, though.
Well, yeah, I mean the thing is, because with the more technical sections on this circuit, you know, like say going into Griswold Street at turn 3, you're all the way down the gearbox from 6th to 1st, then you're probably shifting up to 2nd before turn 4, then you're probably having to compensate by going down a gear again, then up again. So it's a case of when that engine is bouncing off the rev limiter, it's just putting too much force through it. And yeah, Paul Ibbotson has just jumped into chat saying, so gutted to be out of this race. My strategy was going fine. I'd even started to back off the pace once I was ahead of Alan Holden. The inside wall at turn 4 got me. So it was when that right front contacted with the wall when he clipped the curb, and the wall grabbed him, so to speak, and then that was it, game over. So that means, well, Alexander McQuarrie has managed to, I think, well, he's no longer showing as a DNF now, but he's still showing in pit road, 11 laps down. But yeah, I mean, Mr. Kirby has now pitted for the first time as we are 48.5 minutes to go until the checkered. I think really, to be honest with you, yeah, I think the sensible choice was keeping the LMP2s away, but I'm going to make an observation here, and I think if we had an all GT3 race, it could have been a very different story than having 2 separate classes, and maybe just, you know, have this as a standalone race as part of the championship. But the thing is that some drivers will want that test of a hypercar around this circuit, wouldn't they?
Yeah, you can't, sorry, Russ, you can't just turn around and go, right, for one track, boys, you're going to have GT3s. It's like, no, get on with it, deal with it. You know,
they do that in real life.
Yeah, but they've just got to be prepared to take on the challenges of what's in front of them, haven't they? You can't let it be dictated by the fact that, you know, they've got this coming up. You've got to, well, suck it up, Buttercup.
Right, looks like Brian, well, one of the halls has just had a penalty thrown at them by the server. Whether that was Brian or Lanny, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, no, I agree. I think it's just like if you had a standalone race apart from the championship, that would be fine. But when it's in a 11-round championship, you're going to want to. Now this is quite interesting. Paul Ibbotson is giving us a little bit of insight. Strategy for the 911 GT3s. The race is about 2.5 stints. I started on a full tank of fuel. First pit stop was going to be half a tank of fuel, no tyres. Then second stop, full tank of fuel and new tyres. Let's see what Kirby and Reyes do. Well, unfortunately, Paul, Reyes is a DNF. So I'm going to be interested to see what the different strategies will be between Alan Holden and Daniel Kirby. And maybe even Eric Jacobs as well. Because, okay, yes, he's a lap down on Daniel Kirby, who I think is about to put another lap on him, despite the sheer speed that Dan Kirby has got in this 911. But I think it's going to be between, I mean, there's a big old gap between Kirby and Holden at the moment in terms of 14 seconds, but Holden's in pit lane at the minute, so it's dependent on who gets the jump on each other in the pit lane battle.
He just came out. I think. Well, he's going down pit road, so this will actually be pretty close. He should be popping out just behind this little train here, behind Kirby, as they clear. So
Yeah,
I think he gained on him a little bit during that stop on Kirby.
yeah. So yeah, Kirby's got Norm Graf between himself and Holden and Jacobs. So, and Norm Graf is about to. No, it's not Norm Graf. Ben Kesby just passing him. So, and at that particular occasion, at least Ben didn't go straight on and do a Norm Graf going into turn 3, like we saw earlier on with the big drama with Lanny Hall. But we've now hit half time, and we have nearly a third of the field at a DNF stage here, folks.
Yeah. Maybe we should have a bet on how many are actually going to finish.
I don't want to take that.
You check it out.
We hit single digits.
He's sitting on the fence.
You're saying about that, Ross, right? About single digits. We've only got 12, mate. 12 still running.
I know.
Lanny Hall is still running, albeit 11 laps down. We've still got Overton still running as well. But Stephen Miller's in pit lane and has been in there for a bit of time. So we've only got 12 at the moment, mate. And we've still got 44 minutes to go, believe it or not.
I think we might probably have 8 by the end of this race.
Oh,
Harsh
We
call.
might have 8. That's the lowest I think we'll hit.
either that or everybody's gone. Yep, staying away from the wall. After all the tyres that have gone strolling off across there as well. It's going to be a most expensive eBay sale from Detroit here with all the tyres and every bit of everything that's gone flying off the cars.
Canards, rear wings, you name it, we got it. Here it is on eBay, courtesy of VMSC here at Detroit.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Alex. Oh, go ahead.
No, you carry on.
I was going to say, Alex, I think it's interesting what you're saying, thinking back to Paul Ebertson's comment regarding the split strategy for 2.5 stints. Watching Alan Holden came in, he was in the pits at about 46 minutes and came out just a little over 45. Depending on how he runs the back half of this race, he might be able to just one-stop it.
That'd be a Sergio Perez opportunity if you can do that in the Ferrari, but that might be, I think, a little bit of a tall order. I think a 2-stopper is probably the best call for GT3s, but if he's been able to eke out that fuel mileage in that Ferrari, I mean, let's not forget he was caught up in that traffic jam earlier on where we had Paul Ibbotson backwards and reversing down Bate Street earlier on. But I think it's, I mean, looking at the lap times, you look at the pace of Kirby, he's running low 108.8s. Alan Holden, his last lap was a 111.4, so it's as that fuel tank reduces in terms of the amount of fuel in it, that'll depend on how much quicker Kirby gets. But Kirby's just done a 108.6, and that was only 0.4 off of his fastest lap of the race so far. Holden, his best lap of the race so far is a 109.5. So if he tries to eke out that fuel mileage and try and get the overcut on Dan Kirby, that's going to be a tall order when Kirby's lapping well over a good 1.5 seconds quicker than him per lap at this stage of the race. So I think Dan Kirby's going full push. Alan Holden's going slow and sensible.
Yeah. He won't do it. Yeah, he's about to put a lap on him as well. There's no way in hell that Alan Holden is going to be able to beat Dan Kirby fuel saving here either, because that's just bonkers. That's not even right in the realms of possibility here. That's, it's loony to think that he can do that, because he can't. Kirby's too much of an alien. He's just about to go past him. Say, see you later, there's a lap, have some of that, son. And Kirby's lapped everybody in the field, including 2 hypercar AMs of Norm Graf and Lanny Hall. So, yeah, that's nuts. Alan Holden, if that's what he's doing to try and hold on to that place, that's fine. If he's trying to keep ahead of Eric Jacobs, knowing that Dan Kirby is not necessarily in their championship. I get it for going against Jacobs or somebody that's in their championship, But doing it against the fastest man in the series, no matter what car you put him in, is just bonkers. It's just never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, especially when he's lapping 2 seconds, you know, the best part of 2 seconds a lap quicker in a same class car. So, yeah, I think the thing is that Kirby's just running away with it at the moment. Less drama strikes him, but then Holden is just trying to bank, just trying to bank the points. That's where I see his strategy sort of unfolding, because we're, you know, when we get to the Glen, we're effectively at the halfway point of the season when we go there on June 12th. And it's a case how, you know, he's going to get a real bolster in terms of when you look at Ryan Paulbert Reyes, who has come into this with 3 wins. He's now got a DNF against him. And when you think about it, Alan Holden has got no James Walker to think about. So there's no James Walker. So when you think about it, Alan Holden at this rate is going to become the new leader in the LMGT3 standings when we go to our next circuit, which is Watkins Glen. So I think Alan Holden is playing the longer game. It's a bit like Alain Prost. The reason why he was nicknamed the Professor was because he was cold in terms of calculating how many points he would need. And even second on this would put Alan Holden on 118 points. So that is going to probably, I mean, it's difficult to say who is going to win, who's going to be leading the championship, but Ryan Paulbert Reyes is going to be kicking himself after what's happened. Alan Holden's gone, right, here's my opportunity, so I can go for this. And that's going to be crucial. At this point of the season, halfway through the championship, you want to be at that point where you can say, I don't necessarily need to get the win, but if I can get a second or I can get a third, it's going to pay dividends.
Yeah, it will. Let's just hope Paulbert Reyes don't do a Prost and crash into Senna. You know what I mean? Let's just hope Holden and Reyes don't come together.
Yeah, I thought you might say that. I can feel my ears burning on that one.
Yeah. When you put it out there, I was like, yeah, but he crashed into him as well here. So let's hope Reyes and Holden don't come together at the last race of the season and have a stack into each other, with it being semi-deliberate, shall we say, before I start any more conspiracies about motor racing, other than, you know, Lewis Hamilton and Felipe Massa in the Lagos. But we'll get into that another day, I'm sure. But yeah, if that's what Holden's doing, fair play to him, right? If he's thinking about the championship, I've got nothing but respect about that. That's fine. Go for it. Do what you got to do. But as I say, thinking about the win, no, it's not going to happen when you got Dan Kirby and him's fuel saving. Yeah,
because Dan Kirby, we always know that he goes 10 tenths and then some, and the way that he's just rocketing in that Porsche, and you know, you look at the last lap from Brian Hall, he did a 108.8. Dan Kirby in a GT3 car did a 109.0. So all I can say is alien. Yes, he is.
Very impressive.
Excuse me. Sorry, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All kitten over there.
Yeah, I was just had a bit of a sneeze on. Never mind. But there you go. Anyway, racing. There's racing going on the screen. However, there is no one really close together at the moment. So, unfortunately, it's a little bit of spread out. But I think this is kind of what this track needed to get some racing under our belts, other than people grabbing walls and
losing wheels.
Yeah, shooting wheels and everything off the racetrack.
Yeah, I think probably when we get into the latter stages, like the last 15, 20 minutes is when we'll see probably things get a little bit closer together. But Ben Kesby, who has been, you know, at the sharper end of the hypercar side of things. I mean, coming into this, you know, his best result was at Sebring earlier on, round 3. So, and that was a second place finish. He'd also picked up a third at Laguna Seca. He had that unfortunate DNF at Long Beach, and then finished 6th at Daytona for the season opener. So this is going to give both him and Troy an opportunity to try and close that gap onto Dan Kirby, who will be back in a hypercar for Watkins Glen. So, you know,
Well, we're
that
presuming he will be.
presuming he will be, whether he decides I've had enough of hypercar, I want to stick with LMGT3. That's obviously his decision. We'll respect it whether we like it or not. But it could change the dynamic of the hypercar pro class going into the second half of the season when we hit the Glen in the middle of the next, you know, in early June next month. So, right, what have you picked up here, Mr. Parfit?
Stephen Miller crash.
Yeah, grabbed the wall again.
Oh,
Yeah. I think he's done.
Wow. That was Overton, and I think that was one of the Lamborghinis, wasn't it? That was
Brian Hall, I think.
that was Brian, who's running P4 at the moment, 2 laps down. But oh, that was a big old scare.
Watch Miller
right
there in front, and then they both try and come alongside him. Ooh, and bump the
Now,
wall.
did Miller lose wheels off that McLaren? I think he did, didn't he?
At the very least, he lost his engine because that is dead as a doorknob.
Yeah, he's dead, mate. I'm afraid it's a DNF. He's another one.
In the words of Queen, another one bites the dust, I'm afraid.
Yes.
So that brings us down to 11 cars, and we still have 34 minutes to go.
Yes. So, yeah, not quite sure what really anymore I can say about that. I suppose on the upside, right, and I'm going to try and flip this into a positive. We had 17 cars at the start. I do wonder if any more than that, it may have been a little bit more chaotic, and there might have been more track blocks going on over Bate Street. So I'm thankful that our numbers are low and dwindling, because I think anything higher than maybe 20, 25 cars here, and you could be in deep doo-doos.
I completely agree. I mean, if you had 25 cars on here, I think you would have had half out within first third of the race quite easily.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because people would be trying to go they'd be going more than 2 wide. I mean, yeah, you can have a hypercar go past an LMGT3 quite easily, but then if someone decides to make it 3 wide, then whoever's on the outside is going to get the short end of the stick rather quickly, and then find out how quickly the race will end. So that now brings us down to Miller out, Canabasac, Reyes, Gutierrez, McQuarrie, and Ibbotson. So that is going to put us at 11 cars still running on the grid as it stands, with 32.5 minutes remaining. I think that these drivers will be breathing a big sigh of relief when they go, oh, thank goodness that one's over. We can enjoy the Watkins Glen next time around.
Yeah,
And then that'll be a
think,
completely different challenge.
yeah, I think you're going to be right, though. I think they are kind of a lot more of, thank God it's over, shall we say.
Like, now I can watch the rest of them and see how they fare. And yeah, I think in some respects, you do learn a lot, even if you do have a DNF in a race, and you can just sort of like think, okay, how many laps have we run so far? We're on lap 55 now in total. That's what Ben Kesby has completed so far in the number 9 Cadillac, with a lead of 33.9 seconds over JT Tammy. Troy Uyen and Brian Hall round out the 4 hypercars that are still remaining. Norm Graff and Lanny Hall still both cars running, even though Lanny Hall is 12 laps down, but he's still running, which is a good thing.
Yeah, he's putting the effort in. You know what I mean? Fair play to him. He doesn't want to be one of our DNF statistics. That's the one. He doesn't want to be one of them where he's out DNFing. So, you know, carry on, innit? Pick some points up. While you got a low field, you might as well go for it. for Lanny, and he has only got him and Norm Graff, so in the Hypercar AMS, and Graff is just about to put another lap on Lanny Hall because they are together on the racetrack here.
Yeah. So, but still, it has been an interesting race. I think I probably would call it that. I didn't know what to expect. I knew that there was going to be a little bit of drama for some of the drivers, but I think the biggest drama was I did not expect Paul Ibbotson to be the first casualty.
No, but then you've got to look. We knew the track was somewhat challenging in the fact of it grabbing people. You know, it just sort of stuck a left hand out and went, here, come here, and got hold of them. So it's almost like winning the lottery. You could have picked any of the horses running in this race. You had a 1 in 16 chance or 17 chance of getting it right that somebody was going to be out first. Unfortunately for Ibbotson, it was a man-made mistake. It wasn't even a track mistake. It was his own mistake by hitting the wrong button. So, you know, it is what it is. And if he'd hit the right one, who'd have said he might have stayed in here? Because with all these DNFs, he still would have picked up some quite a nice, decent amount of points.
Yeah, and that's quite crucial in any sort of championship. I was saying about this with Alan Holden. I mean, Troy Uyen and Ben Kesby, they're probably just going like, yeah, well, we haven't got to worry about Mr. Kirby in that respect, Ross, because they now know that, okay, we can gain some serious points here at Detroit. We can go with a bit of confidence building heading into Watkins Glen, and then going into the second half of the season. And when it's at that midpoint, you've got to be very, very strategic about how you play the long game.
Yeah, you're right, Alex, because it is it's an even season. There isn't a redistribution of points based on different tracks or race lengths like you see in VWSC. So every track has equal weight in terms of importance, and if you can capitalize on a place like Detroit, pick up where you don't have a lot of other competitors because it is sort of a naturally difficult track. Now, maybe some people aren't here just because of other obligations. I do know, like for Alec King, I believe that he has a race weekend coming up where he's running Mazdas, but which, by the way, they're having a very successful season of that. But he's, he's along with some of the other LMP2 drivers that aren't here today able to make up points. I mean, you're going to have JT Tammy is going to be the biggest winner in that group, who's coming away and really driving up within that class to be able to just capitalize on it and move forward. And it's nice that he's moving the BMW up there. You know, the SC63, the BMW, don't get represented as much in the sister series in VWC, so it's nice to see those cars out there. But yeah, they're gonna, just like you said, they're gonna be the ones to really profit from this track and certainly this race. And yeah, maybe we will only have 8 drivers left here, but they're all going to come out smiling, being able to make it to the end of this and just survive.
I think even though we are 4 weeks away from going to Watkins Glen for round 6 of the season, one of the battles that I'm really looking forward to is the LMP2 battle between Luciano Ichazo, the new championship leader, and Alec King, who had that two massive moments at Laguna Seca and ended up DNFing because he was just pushing way too hard. I'm really looking forward to seeing that battle front and center on our screens in a month's time, as we see Norm Graff get through on Matthew Overton or Max Dunlap going into this part of the circuit. But you know, the LMP2 battle has been very, very competitive, let's not forget. And yeah, it's, in some respects, it's nice to see drivers like JT Tammy get themselves out of their comfort zone, go on a very small, compact track, and you know, put in a really, really decent performance. So if JT thinks, well, the BMW is going to be for me, but maybe I'll wait until 2026 to go into that car and just see out the rest of the LMP2 season, I think that could be a good thing for someone like JT Tammy to get his first taste of hypercar here and then go, actually, maybe if I jump up to the class, maybe, you know, depending on where I am in the championship at the final round going to VIR, maybe we could see JT make a move up. I think sometimes once you get bitten by that hypercar bug, James, it's kind of difficult to let it go.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think you find a car and you sit back and go, I really like this. You know, and as long as they've been out practicing in the machine, I think they'll do well. And why not? Why not just go out, pick a car and say, this is my car, this is her. You know, it's like picking a wife, right? You go through a few before you actually find the one that you want to pick. You know, and so why not do the same thing with a car? Go for it.
Well, smart.
Very, very good analogy there, good sir.
Thanks, mate. It is, isn't it? Come on, let's be real about it. You know, you pick a lot in everything in life that you do. You know, you go through, you know, water, and then you go to lemonade, and then you go to a cup of tea, and then you go to a coffee and go, oh, coffee's the one I want. You know, and that's the thing. It's you know, if you've been divorced, you'll understand what I mean about picking a wife. I've been there once already, and I'm quite lucky I found one I'm sticking with. So, you know, it's the same thing with cars and sim races. You take them all out, get into a test session, go and pick one, come back out, pick another one, see how it goes on, and see how they do. And they're doing really well. So fair play to them if that's what they've done.
Right, okay, Norm Graf pits from the Hypercar AM class lead, currently running P4.
Rossi, you're right there, mate.
Well, the way you describe it, it sounds like, you know, does your wife know that you think of like you just nick down to the market and, yeah, I'll take this one, yeah, right here.
Yeah, just pick them up on the shelf, mate. That's all it is. It's pick a card and go to the front. It's like a lucky dip. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, Alex, you were saying about...
Right. As I was just saying, Norm Graf has just pitted from the Hypercar AM class lead as JT Tammy passes Daniel Kirby out on track, going down into turn 1, just off of Franklin Street as they go up Rivard Street and then onto the long stretch here at East Jefferson. Yeah, we're down to 11 cars with just over 23.5 minutes to go. It is going to be interesting to see when Kirby decides to pit and then when Alan Holden decides to pit, because the gap between them is quite extensive now. It's 2 laps, so the only thing that Alan Holden needs to worry about now is an Aston Martin closing up on him, who's on the same lap, 5.6 seconds behind, and that is Eric Jacobs, who over the last couple of laps has been lapping about 4 to 5 tenths a second quicker.
Yeah, he's got to be careful. If Holden is playing this fuel-saving game, he's got to make sure he can maintain the gap, because he's only there. So he's got to make sure that he can maintain this gap while fuel saving. Otherwise, give it up and go for it. It's like, you know, just give it up and full throttle it. However, I'd like to point out, Stacey said I'm on my 3rd car for both series running in the line 11. So, you know, I told you, it's like, go for a minute and pick him up. But yeah, he's got to be careful that Jacobs isn't going to catch him here.
Yeah, so 3-litre twin-turbo V6 versus 4-litre twin-turbo V8. That gap is coming down. The last lap, Jacobs took a whopping 9 and a bit tenths out of Holden. They were pretty much level in the opening sector, but Jacobs in that middle sector has taken over 6 tenths. So the Aston Martin is slowly bringing the fight to that 2nd placed Ferrari in the GT3, but then it's a case of, you know that Jacobs is pushing, Kirby is pushing, and even though Kirby is running over 2 seconds a lap quicker in this latter part of the race in comparison with 2nd and 3rd in the class, so not at all surprising with the alien-esque talent that Daniel Kirby has, but Eric Jacobs is trying to do everything he can, but he's lost out 4 tenths in that opening sector just now, but it's the middle sector where the Aston Martin really has a little bit more of a handle around the corners. 21.994 in sector 2 by Holden. Jacobs 21.209. So it's in that middle sector that the Aston Martin is more planted than the Ferrari at the moment.
Yeah, it's like we mentioned when we were talking earlier on with, I think it was the 9X8 and the Caddy. There's always going to be an area that one car is better than another. But don't forget, we do have a strong belief that Alan Holden may be doing some form of fuel saving, some form of possible trying to get to the end with 20 minutes to go here. So Jacobs, if he's going to drive full flat and he's going to get there, well, it's going to be a different story, isn't it, for him? He can just go and full bean it everywhere. Holden's got to be a little bit more sensible. So who knows where Jacobs going to be at the end of this? If he is full flat in it and he has got a pit, he may be behind Holden anyway.
James, I wonder, you know, as you're saying that, I'm wondering if maybe Alan has some damage he picked up from like an earlier incident. Maybe he hit the wall or something, and that's one of the reasons he's running slow. Because other than he's just trying to prove that he can do a one-stop just because, I don't see any other reason why his pace would be so far off. Eric Jacobs is no slouch, but I mean, for as much as he's tractor beaming him in here, it seems like that's just a huge amount of pace to be having kind of up over top of Alan Holden.
Well, he's got straight steering, so that's always a good start. And other than that, I don't think I've got a camera that can go around his car, unfortunately, that can show me any form of damage on any sort of areas. You can see the front looks fine. And, you know, he's still got the rear wing on, so that's always good. The car itself from the top-down version looks quite smart. So I don't physically see the inner workings. Obviously, I've got no cameras pointed in on him, but it's a possibility, Ross. I think that's the thing. It is definitely a possibility that he has got damage, but other than, as you say, because I can, is there any other reason?
I don't know. Alex, what do you think?
No, I think I mean, which car was sitting behind Paul Ibbotson when he had that moment going into turn 4? I think Alan Holden was one of the cars at the front end where I think it was in it Lanny Hall that we saw that had actually spun it whilst trying to avoid people. Because like it all concertinaed and then all of a sudden there's a big old traffic jam. I think Alan Holden, I'm not too sure if he was towards the front of the train or the back of the train, but if Lanny Hall had made contact with anybody, then that might have compromised someone, especially if he spun into the rear end of a GT3 car, and if that's caused some superficial damage to the rear diffuser, that will then compromise the rear downforce on the car, so that will lose you a little bit of top speed and also some handling characteristics thereby.
Yeah, as I said, it is more than a possibility that he has, and we, as I say, we physically cannot see the damage that he's got, you know, and that could be the case, and it may well be the case with him that he's carrying damage, because, as I said, other than just because I can, why would he be doing it?
Well, 3.5 seconds and one more pit stop to go with 17 minutes left in the race. I guess we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. I mean, you've had Kesby, JT Tammy, Troy Uyen, Brian Hall. They've all done 2 pit stops. Norman Graff has done 2 pit stops. Obviously, there were going to be possibility of 3 for the hypercars, but obviously with the slower speed technical sections of the circuit, you're not going to be at full throttle all the time. So there may be a little bit of lifting and coasting involved before applying the brakes, but with the GT3s, you're able to go that little bit more hell for leather, so to speak. As bit of a wobble there from Alan Holden coming out of turn 2, going down towards East Jefferson. So, but let's just see what his speed is before he hits the brakes. So 250 kph, 250 kilometers an hour before heading into turn 3 at Griswold Street. So I'm just looking at the speed traps between, I mean, Daniel Kirby's hit highs of 165 miles an hour. Alan Holden and Eric Jacobs, they've been pretty much on a par. Their maximum recorded speed 163 miles an hour, but that would have been maybe a little bit earlier on in the race, whereby they did have the slipstream of assistance of other GT3 cars that were close in proximity, as well as the hypercars too, let's not forget.
There's still lots to play here, and maybe not in some of the other classes, but definitely here with Jacobs and Holden. There's still a lot that can go on over these next, you know, what have we got, 15 minutes here. I don't think, other than that, there's going to be no challenges anywhere else. I think Max and Flap can just carry on doing what he's doing, you know, probably thinking about what he's doing tomorrow, doing a bit of shopping, I don't know, taking the wife out for dinner, and he can just poodle on around Detroit. He's got a, you know, Miller's 16 laps down is in pit lane here as well. You know, Norm Graff is another one. He can take it easy. He looks like he's going to wrap up the win. So does Dan Kirby, and so does Ben Kesby. So yeah, it's hard to see, apart from possibly Alan Holden and Jacobs, where the rest of the action is going to come from.
I just had news from Alexander McQuarrie in the Discord server. Well, that sucked. Blew the motor. Laugh out loud. And Ross, you went straight away. You too. And he said, yeah, turn right before the pit entry. Downshifted 2 gears. Boom. So, so that's 2 GT3 cars we've lost due to blown engines in this race.
I'm kind of at a loss for words because I didn't think it was really all that possible. I know you could kind of hurt the engine if you keep being aggressive with it, but just being in those GT3s myself, I know that it's very easy for that shift protection to pop in. And like I said, it's not nearly as aggressive as you see with the Studio 397 cars, which a lot of people have complained about just because they like to be able to ride the engine down, do a lot of engine braking, whatnot. But it certainly will keep protecting you. So I'm not sure if it might just be these cars in particular, like these particular models, maybe they're a little bit too light with some of the protection, or if it's a combination of, like you said, the the gearbox is getting a lot of work here, and just a combination of that and running the revs a little bit higher. Maybe there's some tape over the griller blanking for the engine. It's a full combination of those things coming together and making the engine fragile.
Yeah, and when you've got a lot of gear changes, a lot of acceleration, a lot of hard braking, you know, it's not just the drivetrain itself, not just the engine, but also the gearbox. Also the braking system takes a pounding as well, especially if the car's front engined, with regards to where its engine is placed in the vehicle. So yeah, I mean, new track, and also I think because of the way that this track has, you know, it's a new development. It's here, and a big thank you to Benjamin 00 through SGS that has helped to develop this track for this platform. You know, there were always going to be those sort of what if kind of situations, James, whereby, yeah, you're going to have a lot more gear changes, a lot more stress on the engine because you're slowing the car down. The engine's then nigh on tick over. You're then accelerating. You're up the gearbox. You're down the gearbox. You're braking. You're turning in. There's so much that the driver's having to concentrate on, and that's just on turning in, shifting up the gears, accelerating and braking, but then also brake bias, engine mapping, that kind of thing that can also be conducive to potential engine dramas.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's so much involved with it that you could put it down to a number of things, couldn't you? You know, Ross is more tech savvy on it than I am in the technical side by saying it's not physically possible, it shouldn't be possible. Well, clearly we're being shown that it is possible, and they have done it. So it could be anything involved with that. You know, you've got to look at how many gear changes, as you say, you're doing throughout the race, and there's lots of things. And I would never sit back and go, something is never possible, because of the fact that it's always possible.
I mean, just looking at the telemetry that we've got with Ben Kesby at the moment, going through that complex just there, going through the final couple of corners, through turns 8 and 9, he was at 110 kilometers an hour, which is about close to 70 miles an hour in first gear, and the rev limiter was quite close to the red line. And now we're seeing him go down East Jefferson, 280 kph in 7th gear, 290, 300, now down the gearbox. And he's got to shift all the way down to first gear at around about 30 miles an hour. So that's a scrub of 150 miles an hour worth of speed, and then accelerating coming out of turn 4, and then the car's nearly bouncing off the red line again. So it's not just the GT3 cars that could be at this problem happening, but the hypercars as well, wouldn't you say, Ross?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still kind of stuck on what James was saying there with this because I'm looking at the ambient track temperature, only 20 degrees out. It's quite cool. So I don't know. Being on the Storm Gang side of things, you know, these sort of questions bounce around inside my head, even though I'm less involved with the physics and more in tune with what's going on graphically. But you know, it's just perplexing, and certainly this track just overall has thrown a lot of monkey wrenches into everything, the way that the drivers are driving the cars, and how, like you said earlier, how it's going to shape up the championship.
Let me ask you, Ross, when you take a drive down the street, how hot is your car when you get out of it? Can you put your hand on the car engine? Does it matter if it's
Depends on the
sun?
day.
Does it matter? It doesn't matter, does it? When I go out, it doesn't matter if I drive round the whole block, do 100 miles in my car, I still can't put my hand on the engine. Whether or not,
Well,
I live in
yes.
the UK. I live in the UK, dude. We barely get sun, right? Alex can vouch for this. We spend most of the time freezing, so it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. The engine is still roasted. These guys are running this at full beans at 300 kph at certain points. The engine's going to give up, dude. It doesn't matter if the ambient temperature, it doesn't matter. It could be snowing, and that engine will still blow up if it gets too hot. Because my car, any car will do the same thing.
Well, I will say that you're right in that the engine is pushing, and certainly anything the drivers are going to be doing during the race is going to have a major knock-on effect. But I would argue that to see it in a condition where it is this cool, unless they have their blanking cranked way up to try and maximize whatever they can down the straightaway, you know, getting that straight line speed or anything like that, maybe some front downforce. It's the type of thing that I'm surprised that simply having those downshifts being kind of aggressive would be enough to do it, especially in such a short amount of time. I think it was maybe around halfway when that took place. So it's just surprising to see that thing kind of happen. You know, maybe after a longer race of constant abuse, if it were hotter, I could see that happening. It's surprising. That's all I have to say.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, from my mechanical understanding, with having worked in the automotive industry, I've seen it where it doesn't matter about the ambient air temperature. It sometimes can be just down to the amount of force that's put through the gearbox, put through the engine, and the wear side of things. Because when you're at full speed in a race car, or Ben Kesby getting a little bit Tokyo Drift going through into turn 3 there. He's got a good old gap at the moment with 48.2 seconds ahead of JT Tammy as we're into the last 8 minutes of this race. I think it sometimes can't. It doesn't always depend on the ambient air temperature. It's also when you think about gearboxes run with hydraulic fluid, and also the fact of the wear and tear on the internals. Okay, yes, we are in the world of sim racing, but the principles applied would be the same from my understanding. And I could go into terminology here, but the more you put something under duress, the more likelihood there is of it going to break. Is effectively the layman's terminology for you folks out there that don't that may not know about.
Oh, don't patronise the audience, Alex.
No.
I'll tell you, you teach them to suck eggs, mate. They're going to come back and throw them at you.
No, I'm just saying, for those people who have joined us for the first time and don't have the full understanding, I wanted to make it as simple and as easy as possible in one sentence to understand. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. You're 100% right, Alex. I mean, it is mostly down to the abuse on the engine. I'm just thinking of it in terms of the way that R Factor 2 simulates some of that long-term abuse, because it will factor in a lot of the engine heat, particularly like with oil temperature, which can be greatly affected by what's going on between the track, the air temperature, and whatever blanking is going on. Like it will use a lot of that to try and simulate what's going on with the mechanical wear on top of whatever high rev ranges and torque and whatever you're putting through the transmission.
Yeah, so we're coming down to the final 6 minutes as Ben Kesby trying to get through on Alan Holden, and it is very much the case that he's going to win this by best part of 2/3 of a lap here, well, over 2/3 of a lap, nearly a lap over JT Tammy, who on his hypercar debut this season in the BMW M Hybrid V8 has done a stellar job, whilst a few drivers, including Johnny Gutierrez and Karabasak, have fallen by the wayside. Troy Uyen in third, ahead of Brian Hall. Norm Graff leads again in Hypercar Am. And Daniel Kirby, he might be 5 laps down, but he is leading the LMGT3 Pro and LMGT3 overall 6th. He's run as high as, what was it, 4th overall this race, gents, and done a pretty stellar job. As we see Troy Uyen trying to get past, I think that is that Brian Hall, who I think he's trying to get past on the moment in the Lamborghini, because I know it's a different colour scheme for Lanny Hall's car.
Yes, you are correct. You are correct here, sir. He is putting Troy Uyen, is putting a lap on Brian Hall, which will put him another lap down. We've still got 11 cars to run and 4 minutes to go. So good job from everybody that stayed in. Lanny Hall being 9 laps down is the last of the runners. Stephen Miller is still in pit lane, but I'm not going to count him as a runner. He's been in there for absolutely ages. No other dramas for anybody else. Kirby still leading GT3s. Norm Graff still leading Hypercars. Hypercar Am, sorry. Kesby still leading Hypercar Pro. Max Sunverlap still leading GT3 Am.
And is the only surviving GT3 Am at that as well, because Miller, McQuarrie and Ibbotson are all out of the race. So good run for the number 61. It's nice to see him be able to survive the dramas that everyone else has suffered here today, Ross.
Yeah, and you know, based on the math that James just explained, it looks like it's about a car a lap to his prediction. So looks like that's pretty much in the driver's favor at this point. I am kind of interested, you know, seeing in that Eric Japes, he did come in for that fuel stop, by the way, so that's opened up this gap. So I guess we'll see if Alan Holden's able to hold out and get that the last, I guess it'd be probably about 3-4 laps now coming to the end that he has to hold out for to make that one-stop race a reality.
Yeah, I think, well, Ben Kesby's about 3/4 of the way through the lap. We've got a yellow out in sector 1 that's just been briefly...
Oh, Troy Uyen.
Oh, dear. What's happened here? Oh, that's Eric J. Oh, oh, he was very, very lucky he did not turn in.
Wait.
Very lucky he did not turn in. Hold your brakes.
You get a heads up.
Well played there, Troy Uyen, and he keeps a hold of 3rd position because Brian Hall was 2 laps down on him.
Yeah, I think for me, he caught him way too late. He caught him late as well. He caught him at corner entry, and I don't know where he expected the Aston Martin to go. You know, he can't Harry Potter up a chimney and just go poof, and off he goes. He is there, and you're going to have to realise that your actually rate of closure is going to put you right on corner entry, and that's kind of what Troy did. His capture area, shall we say, was on corner entry, and that Aston just couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, so we are heading towards the final couple of laps of this race. I think 81 laps will be completed by race leader Ben Kesby. There he is in the number 9 Cadillac V Series R, and he's done a pretty sterling job from lights out. Just over an hour and, well, nearly an hour and a half ago, he's making his way through into turn 2. So I think we've probably got this and one more lap to go, gents. So probably 82 laps will be completed of this 1.7 mile circuit. And Kesby has just done exactly everything right. He hasn't put a foot wrong at all.
No, he has been mighty. Well, the thing is, though, this is maybe, you know, people out in front here, so I was going to dig at you so hard then, Ross. I was like, maybe Ross doesn't quite get this. But when you're out in front, you can sit back and relax with a little bit of time here and just chill, can't you? Ross, you're under no pressure to do anything.
Well, I mean, remember, these are race car drivers, so not all of them are going to take that approach, as you see some of them just still kicking the rear tires around these corners, even knowing that they've only got a couple laps left in the bag. But But you're right. I mean, those with some heads-up skill, and particularly for this group here, where they're seeing, you know, not about a dozen cars left in the race, there aren't going to be a whole lot of stupid maneuvers. You know, no one's going to try anything. I mean, Troy, obviously, like, he was very heads up. Had this been any other situation where there were, you know, 30, 40 cars on the track and he was nose to tail with his closest competitors, you know, he might have tried a little bit harder, maybe on the GT3, or, you know, it's tough to say. But you know, knowing Troy, I'm sure he probably would have been responsible in most situations. But you get in under some pressure, you know, some things can happen. And like you said, if you're out in front, you know, Ben Kensby doesn't have to worry about it. JT Tammy's not going to close up a 48-second gap to him heading into the last part of this race here. So he can relax, just cruise it in for the last part of the race, count his blessings that, you know, he didn't get caught up on a wall or a tire bundle anywhere, and enjoy the victory.
Yep, I agree.
So, an hour and a half has expired here on the streets of Belle Isle in Detroit, and Ben Kesby has led pretty much every single lap. He's going to take the victory here in round number 5 of the series, and it's going to be by a significant margin, more than 48 seconds. And with that, well, the next best placed hypercar driver will very soon be crossing the line in his own right. That'll be JT Tammy in the number 024 BMW V8 Hybrid. Norm Graff looking to take, I think it will be his second successive win in a row. There is Norm Graff in the Aston Martin Valkyrie, as he's making his way through the final few corners. And, well, Daniel Kirby is going to take the win in the LM GT3 class, ahead of Alan Holden, who manages to pick up second in the series this round. Max Sunkenlap crosses the line to win in LM GT3 AM, and Norm Graff with that screaming V12 Aston Martin Valkyrie takes the win in the Hypercar AM class. Eric Jacobs will round out the top 3 in LM GT3. And, well, Alan Holden was a Sergio Perez fuel whisperer on this one, because he did it on a one-stopper. A great strategy there from the number 25. Lanny Hall will pick up second place in the Hypercar AM category. And we're, well, what can we say about that race, gentlemen? A lot of wool grabbing, a lot of tyres here, there, and everywhere. Some carbon flying about the place. But at the end of it all, we had 11 cars finishing out of 17 starters.
I think the story will be, you don't really like sometimes seeing where the track dominates the result, but I've got a funny feeling we may have just seen a track dominating the result. But here are final results.
So, winner overall of round 5, and in Hypercar, it's Ben Kesby finishing ahead of Hypercar debutant this time around, JT Tammy. Troy Uyen and Brian Hall round out the 4 Hypercars that did make it to the end of the race. Norm Graff picks up the win in Hypercar RAM, with Daniel Kirby deciding to go into GT3 this time. Picks up the win a lap ahead of Alan Holden, who in turn was a lap ahead of Eric Jacobs, and they round out the top 3 in LM GT3. Max Sunkenlap in the Aston Martin picks up the win in LM GT3 AM, ahead of the final surviving GT3 Pro in the form of Dark Thunder Racing's Matthew Overton. Lanny Hall in the number 50 Hypercar AM class would round out the 11th and final classified finisher, making it to the checkered flag. We then have Stephen Miller, Edgar Karabasak, Ryan Paulbert Reyes, Johnny Gutierrez, Alexander McQuarrie, and Paul Ibbotson, with the latter 2 just mentioned having blown their... Well, we had Alexander McQuarrie blowing an engine, and Ryan Paulbert Reyes doing exactly the same, with one doing it in the going into pit lane, one doing it at turn number 3. Yeah, interesting first run on this version of Detroit. We are going to see whether we might have a chance to speak to our class winners, which I think we have already got a couple of them coming in as we speak. A big thank you to the Partners, sponsors, and contributors: SimRace 24/7, Champion Motorsports, Gridfinder, Ozadogan Design, JMP Virtual Tracks, Brian B, Optical Dreamsoft, ODS, Virtual LM. As Mr. Matthew Overton joins us. Matthew, hello there. Welcome in.
Thank you, Alex. Heck of a race. I've got the 4 class winners all set up and waiting for you. I'm sure they've got some great stories about how the race panned out for them. Much better
Indeed.
than my sad story.
Indeed, indeed. Well, I think first of all, what we need to do is we'll bring them in class order. So first of all, let's see if we can bring in our overall race winner, Ben Kesby, who picks up the win here at round number 5. Let's just see if I can drag him in. There we go. Ben, well, what can I say? You picked up a win here at Detroit. Lights out to checkered flag, winning by nearly 50 seconds. How are you feeling after that one?
Oh, a lot more stress than it probably looked. Those walls are forever very close. But yeah, it's been a difficult start to the season, and it's nice to finally get a win.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did see quite a few times where drivers were having a few Code Brown moments, let's say, and some got grabbed unceremoniously by the walls when they were getting a little bit too close. Was it just a case of just crossing every T, dotting every I, and just making sure that you got through safe and sound?
Yeah, it was a lot of talking to myself, trying to stay concentrated. I realized I knew I couldn't let off the pace too much, because then I'll go too slow into one of the corners. You grab the inside, so I was sort of going for it most of the time. I did have to reverse at one point, so it was nice that didn't cost me anything.
No, but we did see it, mate. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did see you echoing the sentiments of a Mr. Norm Graff, who I'll be speaking to in just a minute, where you both went straight on at turn 3 at the hairpin. But it is, when it's a new track and no one's really tested it to get that kind of experience can help in terms of a driver's development, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, that was such a concentration race. Like you said, you really had to cross the T's every single lap. So yeah, good one for the mental.
So we go to Watkins Glen in a month's time. What are your thoughts ahead of that?
I quite like that track. I normally have good results, so hopefully we'll do it again. And yeah, hopefully keep the winning ways going.
Indeed, indeed. Anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go, Ben?
Just everyone that runs it, especially names going past right now, but whoever made this track in short time did the walls did a very good job. It was very nice.
Brilliant. Well, Ben, thanks for joining us in the post-race interview show, and we'll see you next time for round 6 at the Glen.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
So great to hear there from Ben Kesby. Let's get in our Hypercar AM class winner. Let's bring in Norm Graff. Norm, welcome in. Well, the Valkyrie reigns supreme against the streets of Detroit. That was a bit of a difficult one, especially with that big scare at one point where we saw you being pinball wizarded into a wall.
Yeah, somebody yelled out, blocked, and I hit the pit limiter button, and that's all it took.
So that's why we saw you running so slow. I was kind of wondering why that had happened, and I thought, well, has he picked up a penalty, or is there an issue with the car or something? But you've now picked up what is now your second win of the season. You picked up the win at round 3 at Sebring, so that's 2 wins and a second so far this season. You must be feeling a little bit happier after what was a difficult race at Laguna Seca.
I don't know about that. I've been, I don't know, I've had a lot of bad luck this season and last season, and just not been going my way. But I mean, I'm glad I could win the class, I was in, but I still like to go for overalls, and I'm just not getting there.
But one question I do need to ask: are you still enjoying driving the Valkyrie? Because it's great to have that car on the grid.
Yeah, I actually like it. It's just I don't think it's got the speed of some of the other cars, but maybe I'm just using more wing than them too.
Hmm. And thoughts ahead of Watkins Glen next month? How are you feeling
Oh yeah.
about that?
Well, I love Watkins Glen, so we'll see about it.
Brilliant.
It's one of
Norm,
my favorites.
so before we let you go, Norm, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, the whole CMS gang. I'm glad they put this stuff up. It's a blast.
Brilliant. Well, well done on your second Hypercar AM class win, Norm. We'll see you next month. Next
Okay,
time out at Watkins Glen. Well done tonight.
thanks, guys.
So a big thank you there to Norm Graff. We'll now get in a man that we normally speak when he wins in Hypercars, but tonight he's an LMGT3 Pro winner. Daniel Kirby. Well, I thought I'd be speaking to you about a victory. I didn't expect it to be about LMGT3. So that's 5 class wins in a row over the course of this season so far. Well done.
Oh, thank you.
Now,
Yeah.
what was the decision to go from Hypercar to GT3 in a nutshell?
It just felt like it. I was practicing with. Yeah. Yeah, I was practicing hypercar, and I don't know. It just I was wondering. I wonder how much fun GT3s are here. So I tried it, and I'm like, screw it. I'll run GT. It was funner driving GT than hypercar.
Okay, well at least we've got a more bona fide answer on that one. But I mean, still, see the lap times you were putting in. You qualified, I think, in the top 6. You were running as high as P4. You were running. Now we all know that you've got Alien S type skills, no matter what you're behind the wheel of. Let's be completely honest here. But what are we going to see you in for the Glen? Are we going to see you back in a Porsche hypercar, or are we going to see you in the 9X8 again? What's the game plan for Mr. Kirby for round 6?
I have no idea.
No. I'm trying. Right, is it hypercar? Is it GT3? You got to make an on the spot decision. Come on, you've got 4 wins. 4 wins, man. You ain't getting that. Come on. Come on, we want to see this run of forming hypercars continue, Mr. Kirby.
Yeah, it'll probably be hypercar, but which one? I'm not too sure.
Okay, well, at least we've got a class that defined then. So you're back in hypercars. Good. Right. Okay. Watkins Glen, you like the track? Is it going to be one that you're going to do a number on everybody else like you've done in the first 4 rounds of this season?
I don't know about that, but yeah, it's a really fun track. It's got a lot of variety of corner types and everything, so and it's pretty good for racing and multi-class, so it should be a lot of fun.
Brilliant. Well, Dan, well done on the win tonight. Anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Just the usual, everyone here at CMS and everyone who contributed making this Detroit track. It's probably one of the only ones out there, so huge thanks to everybody. It's pretty sweet.
Brilliant. Dan, thanks so much for joining us in the post-race interview show. We'll see you on June 12th for the 1.5 hours of the Glen. Well done tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, a big thank you to Daniel Kirby, and we've got one more driver to bring in, and it is in LMGT3 AM. Max Sunderlap, welcome in. Congratulations on the win. It was a rate of attrition in the LMGT3 AM class, wasn't it?
Oh, it sure was. It sure was. Luckily, I was a survivor of it.
Plus, also, look at it this way: you had a third at Sebring, you had a second at Laguna Seca, and now you've hit all 3 steps of the rostrum in 3 respective races. So you get a maximum haul of 30 points. It was just about surviving out there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely was. There's the track is super tight. Hardly any places you can pass that, and the whole time it's when you start losing your tires a little bit, it's even more scary and stressful because lots of walls or all walls, right? But really tight, and the whole race is you're basically puckered up the whole race.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one way of putting it there, Mac. Like you've got to have your eyeballs on stalks the whole time. But
Yeah.
a new track. But then next time out, June 12th, we go to the Glen, another different circuit, but one that a lot of drivers seem to love. Is it a circuit that you like racing at?
When I used to race ACC, that track was very fun. I actually have not raced that in this league and this RF2, so it'll be very interesting. I really look forward to it.
Well, it looks like you're going to have to put a little bit of wheel time to get yourself ready for round 6. But congratulations on the win in LMGT3 AM tonight here at Detroit. Anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, I want to thank Matt Wolverton for putting the whole season together, and Don Hunter for really making this track right. You guys, Alex and Ross, you guys are making this stream like fun and engaging to watch, so that helps out a lot. Yeah.
No, thank you very
Oh,
much.
Michael, I don't see you on the. Thank you. No, yeah. No, thank you very much. It's very engaging to listen to you guys watch the stream. Makes it very, very fun. So appreciate that, and of course, I gotta thank my wife for giving me the time to practice and come out and race.
Brilliant. Mac, thanks for joining us in the post-race interview show. We'll see you next month for round 6 at the Glen.
Hey, thank you very much. See you guys.
Well, that's it really for the post-race interview show here for the Virtual Modern Sports Car Championship here on Champion Motorsports and on JP Broadcasting. Mr. Parfit, well, an interesting race here at Detroit. We managed to come across the line with 11 cars out of 17 starters, but still there were some dramas along the way, let's be completely honest. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, definitely a great night of racing, James. It was. I would have liked to see a little bit more come out to be able to enjoy the work that Don Fryman has been spending a lot of time trying to get ready. And like you said, there were some dramas. You know, we even had a Macau moment with Paul Ibbotson partway through the race. But overall, you know, we had a lot of really good, entertaining battles up and down the grid. A lot of drivers being able to keep pace, and I was honestly pretty impressed that for the most part you know, they were able to go for quite a while without having really any major incidents. Like we just most of the major dramas we saw were you know, cars blowing up from abuse, I guess you could say, and just some of those unfortunate wall grabs that kind of took a few people out, but otherwise pretty good.
I was really very pleased with the race. I walked into it with a lot of trepidation about how it was going to turn out. I will disagree. I would have liked another at least half dozen cars, maybe even 10, to extend the racing, because once we did get the inevitable DNFs or just dropping out, the track became lonely pretty quickly. So I'm quite confident it can handle more cars. A couple of unfortunate things there with people having a brain fade in a couple cases, and unfortunate grab of the wall in the case of Stephen Miller. We're going to continue to work on the track. Don Fryman, as Ross said, has done a great job on this track. I'm looking forward to using it again next year with the improvements to it. But it's still going to be a difficult track because there's not a whole lot of room. People are going to be tagging walls, honestly, and it's really makes the driver focus. So I'm really pleased about it. I really like the race.
Yeah, well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here for the NARS Virtual Modern Sports Car Championship. We return to action. We go to Watkins Glen on June 12th as we hit the halfway point of this 2025 season. You've been in the company of myself, Alex Goldschmidt, James Parfitt, and Ross Smith, with the brief cameo from Matthew Overton. It's been a real pleasure having you all along for the show, and, well, we'll see you next time, because it's always that case when you have to race hard, race fair, and if in doubt, well, you can go flat out. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.